Okay. Um. As I said, I watched your VOD, and do you remember when you? Of course, I didn't see everything. Did you remember when you decided on what you wanted to practice? Do you remember when that was?
A few minutes before the scrim, actually.
Oh, okay.
So everyone, I believe, was there a bit early, so we decided on something. I can't really remember what it was. I think staging and grouping up and
Okay.
aiming for.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
it's quite confusing to me that after you loaded into the first map, someone had to ask that question again, and you again discussed what you were trying to practice.
I don't know. I'm not really sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the question was more specific for the specific comp.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's why the question was asked.
Okay. I see. Um, well, in that case, there is not much of an issue there when you discuss it beforehand. Like everything I saw was you discussing it when the scrim already started, and why that's too late, I don't think I have to tell you or explain, right?
No.
Yeah.
So the purpose was not to actually practice what you were trying to do, but to see if you can manage to select one thing and then focus on that during the scrim. Do you think you were able to do that?
Um.
I think it was different from map to map, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think overall we paid at least a little bit more attention to it than
Okay. Okay.
we would
That's
have
good.
without talking about it in first hand.
Good. Okay, very good. Um Actually what I want to do is make this give you a more detailed uh what's it called? Protocol on how you do this. So ideally you what you did right already is like you me and oh and what you oh I s. Okay. Ideally, that only really takes 5 minutes. Let's say 10. So you have a little bit more time. Um. Now, what else or what can you discuss before the scrim starts regarding this? What should you talk about? And now the new people can come in as well.
I mean, the picks we're gonna make, the strategy we're gonna use.
In what sense?
Like, for example, decide early on, like, let's say the priority is target focus, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Then play Death Ball or something and decide what to play.
Very good.
I think he meant 5 plants and everything, you know, about that.
No, that's not what I meant. Um, that's not necessary for this. Discuss team comps and maps you want to play. What you play should make what you're trying to practice easier. Right? when you're trying to focus target, then it doesn't make much sense to play a spam comp. That doesn't really rely on putting all of your damage in the same target at the same time. You know where I'm going with this? And also, then maps who don't really counter what comp you want to play. So that you don't have to think about what comps you want to play or what maps when you're loading into the game. What else could you discuss?
What role everyone has to play, maybe? Like, not in the sense what to pick, but rather, let's say, target focus. Beginning, the main tank gives the lead, other people repeat the target, and then if the main tank dies, the off tank takes over, or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good example. It's basically just you talk about how you actually. It's discuss requirements, right? So when you want to try to focus a target, you need to assign a target caller. Obviously, you have to, otherwise you can't properly practice, right? So your requirements and actually discuss. Let's call it execution. Is it spelled like that? Yes, it is. Great. This is where you go really in depth on how you execute the thing you practice. So you discuss, for example, okay, when we are entering a fight, our main tank starts to call a target and then the others start to echo call. Or you discuss, okay, what is another example? You discuss the example with staging. You discuss, okay, it's all right, or no, stop, one step back. You discuss how your team comp, in that case, this comes after that, right? You discuss how your team comp has to stage and what has to happen in order for you to stage properly. And then you discuss what do you have to do for that to happen? What comms do you need for that? What resources do you have to have up in order to achieve this? All right? And then during the game, you do just that. You try to do nothing but the thing you're trying to practice. And what I think it was JC, what he said is kind of right in the sense of what is my role to contribute to what my team wants to practice. Because all of this, again, applies to when you're trying to practice on your own, but you just discuss by yourself. But it's possible that the team decides on practicing something that you as an individual don't contribute much to. Like when what's a good example?
Maybe ult tracking or something.
I guess, yeah. That's something that can happen simultaneously. As an example, like while the rest of the team is trying to practice staging, the main support tries to practice ult tracking because he doesn't contribute. I mean, he still has to listen, to be fair. He still has to listen and do and position to where he and the core, presumably, is required to be at. But technically, he could do that on the side, yeah. Just when you're not contributing much to what the team's trying to practice, either try to select something that you personally, individually can practice on, but more importantly, don't try to do anything that could get in the way of the team's practice goal. So what you want to improve on yourself should kind of match with what the team does as a whole. Right? Makes sense. And then you do that until you feel like you can't anymore. This could be an entire topic on its own, but focusing on just one thing and actually thinking while playing consumes your concentration, focus. Think of it as a resource like Defense Matrix. Every time you use it, it diminishes. Concentration actually does work like that. And so there is a point where you can't really focus anymore. And when that point is reached, there is no point in continuing because you can't really focus anymore on what you're trying to improve on. And so you're just mindlessly playing on autopilot. So when the team, after an hour, feels like, man, I can't focus anymore, please do stop. Because everything you do past that won't be beneficial to you. It doesn't really hurt either, to be fair, usually. So there are no actual downsides when you keep going, but you just won't improve and learn anything past that point. And in my opinion, when you're not really improving and learning anything, there's no point in playing a scrim, because that's why you do scrims. After the scrim, you should have a simple short conversation like I started with today. You should ask basically, how well did we do that? And just quickly think about it, how well you executed it. And think about, it didn't work. If no, why didn't it work? And can we eliminate these reasons next time? If yes, perfect. Let's keep going like this next time. Okay? Everyone understood this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, the symbol for Johnny and Sega lit up, but I didn't hear them. Is that just me? Johnny, say something?
Yes, hello.
Okay, now I can hear you. Okay, my bad.
I just said yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guessed so, but like me not being able to hear you could be a problem later. Good. I would like you to do this next scrim again. Right? You choose something, I don't care what it is. Choose something simple, preferably. And try to apply this. Best case, I'm there and I can support you with that, but I doubt I'm able to, unfortunately. Good. All right.
Can we also count maybe to the pre-scrim with 5 plants?
No, you don't
No.
do that before a scrim. You plan a fight either before the game starts, before the spawn opens. You can plan the first fight. You can do that quite what's it called? Quite in detail, because you have more time. Other than that, you usually would plan a fight before every fight, because every fight is at least a little different to the one previous and to the one following it. And so if you want to make a plan for a fight, you have to do that right before you do it. Make sense?
Yeah, and how we do the 5 plants?
It's a good question, but I'm not looking to explain that right now.
Okay, got you.
Okay. Now on to what I actually wanted to talk about today. I want to start with a simple question. How do you win? How do you win a game of Overwatch?
By conquering the objective.
Okay. Let's call that objective progress. Sure. What gives you objective progress?
Winning fights.
Mm-hmm. Good one. What makes you win fights?
Better planning and execution than the enemy.
Okay, the execution.
Maybe,
Yeah. Go
I would
ahead.
say also maybe good team comps like double shield or something.
Okay.
Maybe just team play, that you play together. Good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, none of that is wrong. What came close to where I'm trying to go with this is execution. let's see how far I can take this. What makes you execute a fight? Or why does... Okay, no, I don't think I can take this much further. In order to win fights, you have to kill the enemy. Forehead. In order to... Actually, let's... Just for the laugh. Right. What makes you kill enemy? Deal damage to them. Right? But what it really comes down to is what's called value. Now, bet you've heard this term before.
I don't really understand it.
No? Okay,
No.
it's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. So winning a fight means having more or getting more value than your opponent does. Right?
Alright.
And value is literally almost everything you do. Everything you do creates some value. Albeit very minute, most things in the game do create value. Now this may be still a bit confusing, so let's start from the other way around. Value is created by actually this way, by resources. Right? So everything you do creates value. Having more value makes you win the game, basically. Now, what is a resource in Overwatch?
Cooldowns, attention.
Good. Cooldowns. Attenzione. Anything else?
Damage, heal,
Mm-hmm.
ultimates.
Yep, wait. Damage. Ults. What was the second thing you said?
Heal. Or like sustain.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Okay, anything else? No? Okay. Everything in the game is a resource. Or anything can be viewed as a resource that you either use directly or indirectly to create value. So, your HP is a resource. Time is a resource.
Is high ground maybe also a resource?
Not really. I mean, it's... Okay. High ground counts to a greater system of space, which is a resource. So, high ground is a space, and space is a resource. So, yes. Ammunition is a resource. Basically everything in the game is some kind of resource that you can directly or indirectly manipulate. And you use these resources to create value to win you the game. So when we come back to this, I said the team with the higher value wins the fight and therefore the game. What is meant by that is the team that creates more value with their resources wins the game, and simply said, the team that uses the resources more efficiently wins the game. Makes sense? Maybe my way was maybe a bit complicated to explain this, but does this make sense to you now?
Yeah.
Good. Right. So the reason why I still use the word value is because actual value wins you the game or determines the outcome of a fight, not really the resource. Why is that? Because every resource has a certain value potential, right? Let's say we use ammo as an example. That's a really easy example. Soldier, I think, has 24 bullets in his clip, right? Something like that. And each of these bullets has a certain damage number that I can't remember. Let's make a number up. Let's say it's 10, right? So you have the potential of dealing up to 240 damage with that one clip on Soldier. In theory, it's more because of headshots, but I want to keep that simple. But, so this, or the headshot value, which would be like 480, is the maximum value Soldier could get out of a single clip of his. Now, you probably know that this right here is not guaranteed and actually quite unlikely. So every shot you hit, but it's not a headshot, results in less damage. Say it's 350. Let's say you not only miss the head, but you miss your bullets entirely. That means only some hit. So the potential value, or the value, goes even further down, like 200. And let's say you miss all of your bullets, then your value is 0. Now this makes more sense when we talk about something like abilities or ultimates. Ana's Biotic Grenade has a maximum potential value of hitting 6 allies, or 6 enemies, and 6 allies. That is very unlikely. And the less you hit, the more this number goes down, to potential 0 when you just smack your grenade against a wall somewhere. Doesn't hit anyone, doesn't do anything, no value. This makes sense, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Let me actually use this as a guideline where I have this. Snatch that from someone. I don't actually recommend you going over this because it's a lot and the guy is explaining things in a very complicated way. But I can use it as some kind of guidance. Now, what's very important for you to understand, which I already explained, but I want to explain again because it is so important, is that the team with more value wins. Okay? Not the team with more resources. You can spend a lot of resources, not get any value out of them, but your opponent can use very few resources or renewable resources and create massive value out of them, which then makes them win. Do you want me to give an example to this? Or is it quite understandable?
I understand it.
Yep. Same.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Perfect. So basically, it comes down to whoever creates more value with their resources. More means just more than the opponent, not trying to get the maximum value out of your resources. Just enough to be above the enemy's value by a little bit. Like if you deal 40 damage to a Reinhardt and his Zenyatta heals him for 30 damage, for 30 health per second, then you will eventually kill him because you have, in that scenario, you have more value than the Zenyatta does. In a very simplified way. It's just, it doesn't have to be much more value, it just has to be a little bit more. Actually, since you talked about it, or since I get to talk about it, let's continue with space. Right? Have you heard, bet money you heard of space before. What is space? Try to explain to me what space is.
Like room you have, but your opponent doesn't. I don't know.
I would say like room where you can go and take a position without having to invest resources.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other idea?
Well, I mean, a room, or yeah, you dominate pretty much. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got the overhand over your enemy. That can be like, or like up 4 people, in like the high ground or something. And you're just like the enemy can't like do something against it when you like to push, or they can't pressure you if you like to stay or something.
Okay. But then have you heard the term taking space before? How would that make sense together with what you explained to me?
Well, I mean, before you have the dominance in a certain area, you need to get it first for a fight, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, through your playstyle. For example, if like the enemy is like, I don't know, somewhere on high ground, and you throw a diva bomb there, they all drop down, and you go up there. In this moment, you created space, basically. Or if your Ryan pushes up and is able to push back the enemy by, I don't know,
Okay.
a certain amount, and then the Reinhardt made space for the rest of the team.
Okay. I said taking space. You used creating space. Is that the same thing?
Taking space is more like if you already won a team fight against your opponents, and
Mm-hmm.
then just go, I don't know, ahead of your payload, for example, to take space which the opponent needs to fight for again.
Okay. Now, space. Just space is literally what the word says. It's areas of the map. Nothing else. It's the entire map could be viewed as space. Right?
Yep.
Now, there is taking space and creating space. And there is also making space. Say this in German, it's funny. Now all of these are different things. At this point, I would like to remind you that this is nothing official. What I'm telling you now isn't necessarily correct, but it doesn't have to. As long as we're on the same page with it, and we're using the right terms together, and we all understand what these terms mean, right? That's why I'm doing all of this with you, because you could argue all of this and what we did last time is extremely basic. I could just assume you know all of this, because it is extremely basic. And while I could do that, it's safer for me and for everyone involved if we just talk about these things just to make sure we're on the same page. Right? And I will use these terms, so there is some value in discussing what they mean. Now, space, as I said, is just a place on the map. Before I explain you what this is, we have to shortly talk about what controlling space means. Space you control is space you literally, physically occupy. So, the place where your Reinhardt stands, you are controlling. Right?
Yep.
Or actually, okay, no, this is stupid. Let's make, because I would, let's say there is controlling space, and let's say there is wait, no, I can't spell. Shit. Occupying? I don't know. Occupying space. Okay, so this is space you control by literally physically being there. Controlling space means indirectly occupying it by putting pressure in that space. What pressuring is, we will talk about later, but on the surface, it's very simple. It's just where you shoot, you can pressure. And obviously, as a Widowmaker, for example, as a Widowmaker, you occupy this tiny space over here, but you control this entire space where you're aiming at. Make sense?
Yeah.
Because any opponent that has to step into here has to react, let's say it simply, to you controlling this space. Because simply because you were there first. Now if we come back to this. So, taking space means occupying space that is not controlled or only very lightly controlled by the enemy. Okay? So you cannot take space where the enemy is physically at, because they are occupying it. In order to take space, you have to occupy it yourself, and therefore have control over it. Making and creating space is basically freeing up space in order to take it. This is quite simple. Basically, making space means either removing or cutting down the area that the opponent controls, like this. So he only controls this area, or by basically removing the enemy and making him, I mean, removing doesn't mean killing him. It means just making him move somewhere else. Because then this space is being freed up, and your team or someone is able to take it. Where was it? Okay, no, never mind. And making space is kind of like preemptively creating space. It's basically what you would call zoning. So you Dragon Strike, Hanzo's ultimate, is often used for that. You send... Wait. There is an alley, and you send your Dragon Strike through it, and even if there currently is no enemy occupying this space, you created this space. Because it's very simply said, it's safe for you to just take it. Okay? So you're making or creating space in order to take it. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Oftentimes, tanks and DPS use their resources in order to make or create space. This is a very easy example again. Let's try. Okay, so this is the Widowmaker, right? This is the space she's occupying and controlling. Johnny, give me an example how you can make or create space here. Regardless of why you have to do that. I mean, obviously your team, you do it because your team wants to take this space, but how can you do that?
I mean, I guess depends what we're playing. If we're playing like a dive-com, can just like basically jump onto her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You are Winston. You're jumping onto her. She can't really do anything about her, about you, because she, even though she controls this area, she can't on her own. Like, this is in isolation still. This gets quite more complicated when there's 5 more people on each side there. This is just the 2 of you. So even though she controls this space, she can't prevent you just using your mobility, jumping onto her. And then, what happens?
Well, she dies.
So, yeah, okay, so either she dies, or she has to move.
Yeah.
Right. And so that way, this entire space is free. Now, what is another example? You're Reinhardt in this example. What do you do? How do you make or create space here?
Well, in this case, I am trying to get, I don't know, like if we have a diva or like someone who, if she's like elevated, then
actually it's just you. And let's say it's a flat surface. Let's say it's a flat surface and it's just you.
Well, I mean, my best chances are if I move outside her field of view. And if that's not possible, I'm just like basically walking onto her. Like, because either she moves or she's gonna die. Because I can just like hold up my shield, close distance.
There we go. Yeah, you hold your shield like this and you move forward. Like in the example with Winston, she applies pressure in this zone, but not enough by herself to prevent you just moving forward. And once you are Here, you cut off the zone she controls right here where your shield is. And this entire space is made by you. Okay?
Yeah.
Now DPS. What could you do? You want to free up this space. What do you do?
Depending on what hero I play. Like, if I'm just playing, I don't know, Widowmaker, just kill her. Or just kill whatever is in front of you. But if I'm like a Mei, wall off the space.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes. Works the same as the shield. It just cuts off the zone she controls. Very good. Do you have another example?
I don't know, for like maybe a spammy or more like Junkrat or maybe Soldier. Yeah, Pharah maybe even just spamming to take space.
Okay. If you... Yeah, okay. I suppose if... This example is a bit wonky, but I guess you're trying... I can see where you're coming from. But the example is a bit wonky. Because it's different to the tank example. When Johnny steps in her range, she can't apply enough pressure to actually prevent him from just walking onto her. But she can if you do. You know what I mean? Like if you just step in here, she kills you. And it's usually a bit easier for her because she already controls this space. Anybody who controls a space has an advantage over someone who's trying to take that space that is controlled. Right? But in a sense, if you could, if you were somehow as far out of her range, you can spam rockets and she has to move. Yeah, that's it. It's kind of true. What do you do as Tracer? Can you?
Behind her.
Uh-huh. And what do you do?
Just create an opportunity for your team to push in by just either distracting her or killing her.
Good. Yes. All right. Okay. I'm explaining one more thing just for this to be complete, and then we stop for today. And the last thing I explain is pressure. I use the term here, right? She applies pressure here in this zone. Pressure is... Oh, no. Oh. Pressure is potential damage. Every space you're controlling indirectly, you have to put pressure on. Or the other way around. Every space you put pressure on, you are controlling indirectly, right? So this Widowmaker is controlling this space because when an enemy steps into this range, she is able to threaten with damage. Even though she's not actually shooting, she's applying pressure. Maybe the best example for this is a Roadhog hook, which, I mean, we can use the same picture for that. As long as your resource of the cooldown is up, you are applying pressure in front of you in a very specific way, in that if an enemy exposes himself and walks into this range, you threaten with the hook. Make sense? So you're applying pressure, but you don't actually really have to do something. You're just threatening to do something. You stand there and you look scary. Literally. Okay. This all contributes to the concept of value, in that when you are in a beneficial space, it's more easy, it's easier for you to get value out of your spent resources. Right? Still not impossible. You don't have to have a perfect position as a team in order to win a team fight. Just have to be good enough so that you can achieve what you want to achieve with your resources. Right? If you have a shit positioning for your dive, and this is staging, basically, your positioning before a team fight, when your staging is bad, you can still win because you can still get value out of your resources from that position. It's just harder to do. And when we come to talk about what team compositions there are, what they're trying to achieve, what their weak points are, and what their strengths are, you will notice that the concept of space is very important to this basic concept. In that when you deny certain space, the enemy can't really play and gets so little value out of their resources that you basically win by just controlling a certain space in a very efficient way. Okay. Do you have any questions to what I explained today?
Not really.
Or any
No, I don't have
anything?
to be honest.
Okay.
Just need to process all things
Yeah.
said right now.
Okay. So I just want to quickly sum up. Everything in the game is a resource. You use resources to create value. Whoever creates more value than their opponent does wins. Space is a very important resource because it makes using other resources more easy for you, and therefore your potential value is higher, or the required amount of value is more easily achieved. This is quite confusing, I give you that. Like, the taking, creating, and making space is quite... Yeah, it's just... You take position, and you use your resources. Like, you take position, right? You basically just move onto a position. And here you use resources in order for your team to move to a certain location. If I want to simplify that, that's how I would do it. Okay.